Bible, Jesus. Keep in mind, this is coming from a novice perspective, a very simple perspective, not the most educated, but nonetheless, you learn something new every time you read the Bible. That's something I've noticed. To give you a little bit of context, I guess a testimony, if you will, kind of how I came to Christianity, so you know where I'm coming from. I grew up outside of a Christian, like I wouldn't say I grew up Christian nor Catholic or really religious at all, kind of just neutral, like in the middle, not much religious talk within my family. It's just how I grew up. And then around 19, I stumbled upon a Bible, I think for the first time, like properly within my hands. And keep in mind, it was the King James versions, the 1611, so you can only imagine me trying to figure out how to read that thing. Nonetheless, I had that as the main Bible that I would read probably until last year, and I'm 22 now, or 23 now, so that's like 3 years to King James. So needless to say, I was struggling to sort of figure out the meaning just because it was old archaic English, but nonetheless I got the gist of it. I got the gist of what was going on, which was enough to sort of convict me in my faith. And then sort of last year I got a hold of I started reading like the English Standard Version, I don't know, a newer version of the Bible, and it kind of just made a little more sense to me because it was easier to understand. But yeah, nonetheless, every time I've read it, I've definitely learned something new, whether it was King James Version, whether it's the English Standard Version. Yeah, definitely learned something new. And kind of what I've noticed, interestingly enough, is like the sort of frame of what was going on back then becomes more and more clear as I read more and more. And it's cool to kind of see the image of what was going on back then sort of develop into something more and more clear. Yeah, you might wonder what sort of inspired me in my faith. Like, kind of how did it come to be? How did it come to happen? Considering my upbringing. Geez, there's people everywhere. I struggle to film. There's people around. But yeah, considering my upbringing, like what kind of brought me to Christ, if you will. And I'd say around 19, yeah, I was probably looking, I feel like, for an answer to life's mysteries, an answer to life's questions. And everywhere I looked, and believe me, I looked a lot of places. I'd read all the philosophy. I would read the spiritual books. I'd read, and nothing was clicking, nothing was making sense. And then, like I said, I stumbled upon a Bible. The Bible was actually gifted to me generously, and that's when it sort of clicked. You know, I started to read and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, this is the answer. This makes sense. And many of my friends growing up weren't Christian either, so I didn't really have any sort of way to get in contact, or like any real like way to sort of learn about God, Christianity growing up, until the Bible kind of came into my hands. And then that's when a lot of life's mysteries kind of just made sense, albeit not all at once, albeit slowly but surely. It began to click. Oh, geez. Where am I going? Where is this leading me to? What the? Oh. Maybe I won't continue down this path, but yeah, and I would attend like churches, but keep in mind I lived out in the middle of nowhere, So it was like very small, like a very small church I'd go to. And then, yeah, it sort of helped convict me, I guess. And yeah, it's kind of just a slow process, but I remember the moment when it kind of like clicked. I guess you could say the moment I gave my life to Christ or accepted Jesus in my heart. I guess the moment I became Christian was I was just going for a run. The sun was beautiful, and I was like, well, yep, this is it. This is the moment. Thank God. And that was that. I mean, it wasn't like super spectacular or anything. It was kind of just, slowly like reading more and more of the Bible, reading what it's about, a lot in the New Testament, and then just going for a run, and that was the moment. And ever since then, it's sort of just been a journey of like learning more and just being more convicted, and that's about it. But yeah, learning something new every time I read the Bible. I mean, I notice you can read the same passage, the same verse multiple times and get multiple different nuggets of wisdom every single time you read it, which is always nice. And yeah, I just got like a study Bible, so that's been interesting. I mean, I really like the maps. I really like looking at the maps, knowing like what the landscape looked like back then, how people were living their life back then. Seeing like where Jesus, his ministry went, like seeing where Moses, his exile, like which way he took to escape. All those things I find really cool. And that's where I'm finding I'm growing a lot, is sort of like the landscape, like the politics of what was going on back then. I find really interesting, like kind of how Jesus, I don't know how to word it, but it's like broke the mold in a way, and the people that were like setting these rules up and these regulations were sort of befuddled by it, because they thought that these rules that they made up was like the law, when in reality they were just being hypocrites. And then Jesus basically points it out, and it's like, yeah, you're being hypocrites, guys. This is actually not the way, and just kind of like trolls them, and then they get super mad and stuff. And yeah, I don't know. I just find the whole like gospel extremely interesting, extremely fascinating, and so much stuff just rings true today. Even Romans, I'm finding tons of wisdom. Whereas the interesting thing is, the first time I picked up a Bible, right? You see, I had no context. I had no sort of way to navigate. So I remember looking at, and hear me out, this was coming from a perspective of somebody that hadn't read the Bible before. Keep in mind, up until that point. So my perspective of the Bible is, wow, like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, I don't know where to start. Not that it didn't make sense, but it's just like I didn't know where to start. So it's like I would just flip open a random page, stumble upon some random chapter, and I'd be like, okay, what is going on here? What do they mean? Like, what is a Pharisee? Like, what does he mean by these things? Like, and it was the King James version too, so it was Old English. So I was really confused. But what I'm noticing now is that the landscape, like I said earlier, is becoming very like clear, or more clear than it was before. So it's kind of like easier to understand like what's going on, how the characters kind of relate, and like what they're doing, and all that kind of stuff. Like, I don't know, it's really neat to see. So I'm just kind of excited to see how much more my knowledge can sort of grow, and how much more I can understand and learn. And yeah, I really don't know what to title this video. Like, maybe you learn something new from the Bible every time you read it, or I don't know what to call this video. It's kind of just a ramble, but yeah, I mean, something I'm noticing now is I'm feeling like, I don't know if it's an impulse or a conviction or what it is. Something wants me to I guess you could say, the Lord. I'm feeling something within me that just wants to kind of spread the word, you know. I'm feeling like the people in my life that haven't heard of Jesus, that haven't really like opened their hearts to him, I guess, is like, I really want to help them, you know. I'm feeling like an urge or a desire to sort of help them out that way. Although, see, that's an area I'm very ignorant in too, is I don't really know how to do that. You know, I might say something that really just rubs somebody the wrong way, and then it might just like give them a bad impression. So I don't know, I'm kind of hoping that I can learn to do that, hoping that I can learn to sort of guide people that way towards God and Jesus. But sometimes I wonder if I have what it takes, if I have the, I don't know, the charisma, or I don't know what it is, the spirit, possibly, probably. Sometimes I wonder if, you know, because I see people that are just like good at it, they can talk about it, and they really paint a good picture, and they know how to tell the story well, and in a way that's understandable. But yeah, I think it just comes down to just taking the first steps, taking the first action. Maybe gifting somebody a Bible is a good start. Talking to people about it. You know, there's lots of ways to do it. But yeah. Anyways, I think I'll leave it at that. Hope you enjoyed this ramble, this video. You take care, and until next time.